Chair Powell telling Congress the best thing the Fed can do for housing is to restore price stability. My next guest says that requires sellers accepting that the last few years of aspirational pricing are over and real estate is shifting to a buyer's market. Joining me now is Bess Freedman, CEO of Brown Harris Stevens. And Bess, before we even get into that, what are the vibes in New York City, where, if I'm not mistaken, you're sitting right now after Mamdani's surprising win yesterday? What in the world is that going to mean for real estate prices?
Hi, Kelly. It's so nice to see you. People are stressed out. It's really not a good message. Mamdani, I believe that he has good intentions, but his ideas are not practical. You can't have a rent freeze. Some of the things that he's suggesting make no sense at all. We have this big challenge with affordability in New York City. We have issues of safety. And, nothing is for free. We're a city that needs the business community, needs to work with state and local to get things done. And I think this is going to be a huge lift for us. And so my feeling is that we really have to think about how we can work together and collaborate. And just an example of this is, as you probably know, that the FAIR Act was passed on June 11th. That was City Council. Chayose was the writer of that bill. And because of that bill, and we testified and warned them that this would happen, rents have gone up 15%.
In 2 weeks?
Yeah. Landlords have raised their rents.
What was the FAIR Act?
The FAIR Act is, the intention behind it was to try to put the onus on whoever's advertising the listing to pay the broker's fee. So now landlords are kind of putting that into the rent, so they're raising the rent. And we tried to explain to City Council, as we testified, that this was going to create a big problem. Rents were going to go up, and it was not a good idea. But, no one would listen to us. And I think
Bess, Florida, I hear, I mean, at some point, what are you going to do? So if someone said, listen, housing is the biggest issue for whoever, young voters or primary voters or what have you, what is the real solution in New York City? What is the answer?
I mean, first of all, rents have gone up, and now even buying a home has become out of reach. And so I think what needs to happen is that we have to figure out ways to work together, city and state and businesses, so that we can build and do things like the City of Yes was a good thing. But we have to work in that direction. More supply, but also if you think about it today, like it's out of reach for someone to be able to buy a home today. The first-time home buyers are now near 40 years old.
Right.
And so it's become unattainable, the American dream. And I think, people are unwilling to have discussions. Landlords are not the bad guys. Many landlords are trying to pay their bills and feed their families too. And I would like to stop demonizing landlords and the rich and start working together as a group and as a community so we can accomplish good for the city.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest challenge here in New York City today.
Well, is that people just want they want the soundbite, of hey, we're going to lower home prices.
100%, but that doesn't, rent freezes and just the soundbite is not getting anything done. It's a fairy tale. They're selling a dream. Reality and practicality matter, and we know that because we're running businesses.
Right, I know, and I wonder if it makes it even worse. Quickly then, Bess, do you think prices are going to fall just because the market dynamics are changing quickly?
I think that they will. I think they're going to have to come down. They're going to have to adjust. It is moving into a buyer's market. Rents are really high. I think we're going to have to do that because inflation is still elevated, rates are still high, and prices are high. This is perhaps one of the most challenging real estate markets that we have seen. And so I think they're going to have to adjust. Something's got to give.
Yeah, absolutely. Bess, we'll continue the conversation. Thanks for coming on today, Bess Freedman.